I got annoyed this week when I saw that Miami got moved down in FPI just because. I mean, listen, I hate Miami. I get it, right? I hope Notre Dame beats their brains in. But I got annoyed when I saw Miami and Clemson just get dropped down in the fall update, because so much has happened during summer and all these SEC teams get moved up. But as much as I hate FPI, it is kind of a useful tool to kind of see what their matchup predictors think. Let's go through each game quickly. And you tell me if you think FPI is spot on, high, or low with their projection. Alabama is a 90.6 in a matchup predictor for ESPN. This weekend's game, they've got Alabama at 90.6.
Way too high. I think I'm not going to say 50-50, but I could see this being like that Notre Dame game in 2021, where it's closer than people expect. I think 90.6 is way too high. I'd probably put it around 73%.
Yeah, I'm not going to get as specific with the numbers as you are. I was going to say 75 to 80. I think it's a little high. I think, they're still the favorites for a reason. They still have a ton of talent. We'll break that game down, obviously, on Wednesday night live at 7 p.m., so join us. But, yeah, I think it's a little high, right? And that's not even me being a homer. Still going to probably pick Alabama, at least until kickoff. But, I like your take here.
Yeah.
That's a bit high.
We can probably skip the next two.
I was going to say 97 and 95% for the next two games.
Accurate.
Yeah, I just think that's spot on, right? Like, that's fine. I do like that it's not like 99.9. I like that they give them a little bit of wiggle room there because we all saw what happened last year. But, yeah, I think they hit it there. This is an interesting one to me. I don't know if I agree with this one. Virginia. Now, I will say FPI will change throughout the year. Florida State.
Every week.
Every week it'll be adjusted because of the way that teams perform. Virginia is 55.2% chance to beat Florida State. Now, I understand that's on the road. I understand it's a Friday night in the ACC. I think Florida State should be the favorite here. I think Vegas will have Florida State as a favorite unless they lose by like 30 to Bama. I think this is wrong. I think Florida State should be. I would be fine if it was just flipped exactly, if you just made it 55-45. But I think FSU should be the favorite here.
You took the words out of my mouth. I would 100% flip that. Florida State with a 55% chance. It is on the road. It's a Friday night. It can get a little tricky, but I think Florida State should win that game. And if you don't win that game, especially depending what happens against Alabama, Mike Norvell's seat gets scorching hot at that point.
I'll get right back to the video, but first, I am hyped up to catch some live action and get back to Tallahassee. Less than 2 weeks until FSU kicks off against Alabama. Nothing beats that in-person feeling, which is why I want to give some love to the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app, listing more than 70,000 events, concerts, sports festivals, you name it. The college football season is right around the corner, and MLB is also in full swing, so it is go time. I love SeatGeek. I grabbed tickets to the FSU Bama game last week and saved some money for a friend of mine because you know how expensive those tickets are. It's so easy. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10 so that you know that you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Prices are dropping, so go check them out. Every ticket is also backed by their buyer guarantee. Here's the deal. You can use code DOUBLEFRIES, DOUBLEFRIES, for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code DOUBLEFRIES. Click the link in the description to download the app and get the code auto added. Big thanks to SeatGeek. I will see you guys in Tallahassee soon. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been on record saying if they beat Bama, hindsight will say 2020 or hindsight will be 2020 and we'll say that was the most important game of the year, maybe of his tenure. But the Virginia game to me is the most important because if you can't beat Bama and Miami and you lose to Virginia, you're talking 2-3 with Pittsburgh coming to town. But I think things start to get ratcheted up around Tallahassee, and that wouldn't be good. So I think they win the Virginia game, and I do think they're favoring the wrong team early here in the year. Miami, 81.6. I think this is way high, too. Now, I understand Miami's like a top 20-ish team, according to their FPI, but 81.6 to Florida State's 18.4.
I think that should be... Miami will be favored, as they should be. They've recruited extremely well lately, and Florida State has not. and Florida State did not really hit in the transfer portal this year. But I'd give Miami a 58% chance to win that game. I think it's close to a toss up, especially being in Tallahassee. I just don't see it. There's no way I see an 80% chance. I do not trust Carson Beck. We talked about that last week when we did our schedule breakdown from easiest to hardest games. Uh, I think that number is extremely high.
Yeah. What was your percent here?
For Miami, like 58%.
Yeah, I was going to say 65. I'd give them a little bit better, like 65-35. If I've got Bama at 75 to 80, I think Miami's a step below that. It's a rivalry game. I'll go 65. So 2 out of 3, right? So 67 would be 2 out of 3. I'll say, if these two teams lined up 3 times, I think Florida State wins at least one of them, right? Maybe more, maybe, well, not maybe more, right? Either win 1, 2, or 3. But, that would be kind of the way I see it, is around, Miami's got the better athletes. They've got the better probably team overall. Florida State probably gets them once if they're any level of competent. What's so hard is erasing last year out of your mind when you're thinking about these things. But, I think
the situation, if you start strong, and Doak will be electric that night, because assuming it's a night game, even if it kicks off at 3:30, it'll go into a night game. I think Florida State has a better chance than most people think right now, and that's not me being a homer. That's just me watching college football for the past 30 years.
Pittsburgh, Florida State's at 50. It's 53-47, essentially. It's 52 and change, but 53-47. Listen, maybe I'd go 55-45, but I think you're splitting hairs there. I think they got this right. I think this could go either way. And if it was in Pittsburgh, I'd probably pick them. The fact that it's at Doak gives me a little bit more confidence. But I think ESPN kind of nailed this one.
I think it's close to spot on. I'd say 50-50. Honestly, I think that this is one that I actually really agree with. It's going to be a tough game. Especially if you get out to a sluggish start, that could be a problem. But I definitely think this could be a game that could go either way. Literally, one turnover, one blocked kick, one blocked punt could change everything. So I think they're basically spot on, in my opinion.
The next one is one that I'm going to disagree with. Stanford, 55.5, and Florida State, 44.4. I don't know if this has been adjusted based on last night yet. Stanford losing to Hawaii. I think Stanford's an absolute dumpster fire. I think they're the worst team in the ACC, them or Wake Forest. And so I know it's on the road. I know the West Coast thing has to happen. I can't in my mind see Florida State losing this game. I think this should be like 60-40 FSU at worst. And that's probably being a little conservative. I think Florida State rolls Stanford. I don't have a lot of confidence in them to win any ACC games this year. I think Stanford's got a great chance to finish they play BYU. They play San Jose State out of conference. That's their only other out of conference game. Man, I think they've got a real chance to be 1-11 this year. They play at Virginia. They play at SMU. They play at Miami. They play against Pitt. They got to go to North Carolina. They play Cal, and they play Notre Dame. I mean, they could beat Cal, I guess. They could beat San Jose State. They could beat Virginia. I don't think they beat BYU. I don't think they beat BC. So I don't know, man. I'm low on Stanford this year. I think this one's off. Give me Florida State. I think they're way off here.
What was the percentage for Stanford?
54 and change.
That is
55 and change, yeah.
That is absolutely ridiculous. We did our rankings last week from easiest to hardest, and I think Stanford was my third easiest outside of East Texas A&M and Kent State. I know it's a 5-hour flight. I know if you're a big bettor on the NFL, you always bet on the East Coast team and they're hosting a West Coast team or vice versa. Stanford does not impress me at all. I think Florida State should be at literally 75% to win that game.
Yeah, don't like that one. Here's one that I think is fine. 75. I mean, maybe it's a little low, but I'm not going to split hairs on this one, especially coming off of last year. And considering how late in the year this is, Wake Forest coming to town, 76-24, Florida State. I think that's fine. Could Wake trip you up 1 out of 4 times? I mean, maybe this should be closer to 80. But again, I'm not, they're at 76. I'm not going to split hairs over 4%. I don't know that I'd go too much higher than 80. I did see that kid that was going to transfer to Florida and changed his mind, got their starting quarterback job. But yeah, 75, 76%. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It still is an ACC game. Again, I think Wake Forest is much better than Stanford, who we just discussed. But I think that is a fair, you know, predictive model, so to speak. So I can't get upset about it, and I'm not going to argue that they should be 2 or 3 percentage points higher or lower either way. It doesn't make sense to me to get up to get upset about that. I think Wake Forest are a fine program, but it's a game that, again, we talked about this. Florida State and especially Mike Norvell cannot afford to lose.
Here's an interesting one. Florida State going to Clemson. They've got it at 87-13. I think it's interesting that this is like Florida State's more likely to go on the road and beat Clemson than they are to beat Alabama at home. Per ESPN, I think some of that feeds into the SEC bias. Like I was telling you, the SEC teams all rose and the ACC teams all fell in their FPI, which again, just strategic by ESPN to do that. So for rankings at the end of the year, but yeah, I think that's fine. If Florida State played Clemson 10 times, am I confident that they would win 2 of those? I mean, not right now. I think Clemson's a national championship caliber team. Will they do that? Will they cash in? Who knows? I think they're winning the ACC. I don't know if they're going to lose a game this year. I think they beat LSU to start the year. I don't know, 13%. You want to argue a couple of percentage points one way or the other. I don't think this is some kind of glaring miss. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think, playing a team that I think will certainly make the college football playoff. I've been to games in Death Valley before. Outside of 2013, I've not had a lot of fun at those games. And that crowd, while they are the most hospitable bunch you will ever find, just walking to the stadium, everyone will offer you either food or a drink or whatever it may be. But when toe hits leather, they turn into a different animal. I definitely think that that's a game Florida State is going to lose. So with 87%, honestly, and this might upset some of the listeners and viewers, 95% would not bother me. I just think that's the difference between the two teams right now.
Florida State, Virginia Tech. How about this one? Virginia Tech, 69, Florida State, 31. This game in Tallahassee at Doak Campbell Stadium. I think this one's way off. Now, I will tell you, I don't have Florida State as a guaranteed winner in this. To me, it's because Drone scares me as a running quarterback. But I'd say this is closer to 50-50 to me. I think this one's pretty far off. I think by the time this game comes around, it will be much closer. But 70-30, 69-31, this feels way off to me.
Insanity. I'd put Florida State at probably 65. I know you said 50-50. No, Florida State, if they lose that game, it wouldn't shock anybody, right? Because when you play a conference team, things can happen, right? Even if it were Duke or whoever it may be. But no, I'd put Florida State at 70% at this game. I think they're way, way off on this one.
Brent Pry solidly on the hot seat, and they've got a 70% chance to come in and win in Doak is wild. Here's one that I don't think is too far off, 62-38 in favor of NC State. Now, I will tell you, if this was in Tallahassee, I'd like this to be really close to a coin flip. But on the road at NC State, basically 60-40, again, 62-38. I think that's pretty fair. 60-40 sounds about right to me for the NC State game.
Yeah, I have no qualms with that. We did our discussion last week, and I picked NC State to win that game, and I think they will. Again, that could change as we get later into the season, but I have NC State winning that game, and I have very, very low confidence in Florida State going into Raleigh and beating NC State this year.
Now, I want to back up a little bit and remind you that the Clemson one was 87-13, right? 87-13. The Florida game is 88-12. You want to know why? Because ESPN jumped Florida up in their FPI over Clemson, despite Clemson kind of being a national championship caliber team with who I think is quarterback one manning the ship. Listen, I'm not predicting that Florida State goes into the swamp and wins. I think 88-11 or, 88-12, I guess, is a little ridiculous. I'd probably have this at closer to like 70-30 considering the swamp. So I'd still have Florida solidly winning. But, I think 88-12 is a bit rich for the Florida game. Last year, Florida won by 20, scoring 17 points off of turnovers. If Florida State just takes care of the ball a little bit better, that's a fourth quarter game. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have Florida winning by some massive blowout at this point. I think they win this early in the year, but yeah, I'm not buying 88-12 at this point.
Like I said, I would have bumped Clemson up to 95% chance of winning, right? But this 88 for Florida over Florida State is, I think that's insanity as well. Like I just don't know where they come up with some of the metrics. Some of these games, we agree, they've been close to spot on or, not too far off. But this one sounds insane to me. I think especially, if DJ Lagway, you brought it up last week, how he's missed a lot of time to injury. If he goes down, and by no means am I hoping for that or wishing that to happen, but at the same time, like even if he does play, I think Florida State has a better than a 12% chance of winning. But if he's not playing, all of a sudden we're looking at, I think, a coin toss football game in the swamp, or probably give UF the edge, 55, 60%. But 88, that's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, that's a bit high for me. I don't know that I can buy it just yet, but all of these will change. So what did we come up with? We came up with they were pretty spot on for 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe half the games, and then didn't really understand the other half. Oh, well, I guess 7. So yeah, like 5 of these that were like, all right, come on. Let me tell you, this FPI thing.
Game, it makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about this because it's more of a national thing, but I saw that, the way they're doing the strength of schedule now for the playoff, like they're always going to rank the SEC teams a little bit higher, which makes the Bama and the Florida ones funny. When Clemson is easily, to me, the game that, should be a higher percentage because of where it's at. So